Are you tired of that messy, tangled wiring in your engine bay? Is your neighbor mowing the lawn while you're trying to take a video? Alright, now the turbo over there is done, I'm going to show you how to clean up and wire tuck your engine bay. You're going to get that neat show car look without breaking the bank. Now I know my engine is out. Don't worry, you'll still be able to do everything I'm going to show you in this video, even if your engine is in. Probably also wondering, why is your engine out and what the heck is that? I'll show you.
Scoots is our 1999 Firebird that we picked up for $1,000 with no engine or transmission. Now we built this thing in our yard and driveway. We have a goal in mind to hit an 8-second pass in the quarter mile.
Hey John, the again the 69.
Haven't quite hit it yet? Hit a couple snags along the way. You can check out the entire build series down in the description. There should be a playlist linked. Last time we were out in Scoots, we heard some ruckus noises.
Yeah, go ahead and start. Then you can bring up the dash again. Well, that don't sound good.
Those ruckus noises led to investigations. Those investigations led to some damage.
All right, boys.
It's all bad news.
It's all bad news. We got some bent rods.
While I'm saving up some cheddar so I can order some parts to get that engine back together, here we are cleaning up the engine bay wiring. So the only tools we're gonna need are a pair of crimpers, just like that, some wire strippers, ain't gotta be fancy, wire cutters wouldn't hurt, and some sort of butane torch. You don't want to use MAP gas, it's a little too hot. Definitely is going to help out if you got some of these butt connectors that have the solder in them. Now, if I start going too fast for y'all, don't worry, I'm going to put links to everything in the description. And no, they ain't going to be affiliate links. I don't care. I'm just going to give y'all what you need. I ain't trying to make a nickel off y'all. All right, now first we got to talk about something. This here is a Drag 'em Race 'em car, so it's a lot different than OEM vehicles, and every engine bay is going to be different. Certain ones are going to be easier to wire tuck than what I got going on. So I'm just going to briefly kind of explain what wire tucking actually is, and then I'll show you what I'm gonna do. This is wire tucking. This is a combination of two things going on here. This is a wire tucked vehicle engine bay, and it's also a shaved engine bay. Shaving the engine bay is not for this video, but that's basically when you patch every hole, grind everything smooth, give it a nice paint job, and it turns out looking something like that. But today, we're just gonna be talking about wire tucking and cleaning up the wiring, of course. With wire tucking, basically all you're doing is making the wires go somewhere where they can't be seen. What does that mean? I know that sounds kind of obvious, but if you look here, all this metal, all this up here, there's no wires, and all this over here, there's no wires. Everything is below the intake or behind it or down, well, the intake's over here, but everything's under the engine or behind. It's low. So that's like the first goal. You want to remove anything from these areas and then get everything low. And in my application, it's going to be kind of hard not to set things on fire, but we're going to figure it out together. That there be the ways of the magical wire tucking and cleaning up the engine base. Now let's go over a couple more materials you're going to need that'll help you do this job. You do not need to order the quantities that I ordered. I'm always doing this stuff. I'm working on buddies' cars, helping them out, and so when I order large quantities, it's just because I'm going to do it again and again and again. The first thing you're going to need to order is some 1/4 inch loom. Now, if you don't have a drag car like me, where you are going to cut off all the ends of the connectors like I am and put these on it, these connectors right here, then you need to order split loom. It's more expensive. It's in this box right here. And I only got 25 feet of it there because that's all I'm gonna need for certain things I don't want to cut. 1/4 inch loom is good for 1, 2, maybe 3 wires at max. You might be able to squeeze 4. This stuff stretches a little bit, but if you're trying to do several things in one bundle, that's when you're going to want to step up to the 1/2 inch. I don't think you'll ever really need 1 inch. 1 inch is if you're doing like a really big harness that came inside of some sort of corrugated loom already. You might need 1 inch then. Now there's 2 main routes to take when doing this job. All right, with mine, I have a lot of accessories that I power. If you have a lot of accessories like light bars and stuff like that, then you're also gonna do this route. And that route is where you're gonna cut the ends off of everything you've already wired, rewire everything, and do it the nice way with loom and run everything nice and neat. Now, if you're gonna do that, one of these fuse relay boxes is perfect for doing everything. On top of that, you're gonna want some dual wall adhesive heat shrink. It's dual wall because it shrinks a ton and glue squeezes out the ends, keeping it nice and dry. Now, if you're doing the OEM split loom stuff, you're not going to be cutting connectors. You don't need to worry about ordering this kind of stuff. This CCA wiring, copper clad aluminum wiring, will do good on a lot. It won't do great for powering fans or something that draws a lot of amperage. And I don't run it on my fans. I run oxygen free copper, 10 gauge wire to power my fans and fuel pumps. All right, finally, the last thing on the list that you're going to need is some of this wiring loom harness tape. This comes in handy when you can't cut the end to get some heat shrink on. You can't cut heat shrink in half and put it over it and make it work. It has to be a tube, which means you have to slide it over before crimping on a connector. So this tape comes in handy to clean things up when you can't do that.
Oh, baby. First thing we're gonna do is just start snipping everything free. All that wiring I got over there, just start cutting all the zip ties, getting it all free, straightening everything out. All right, so first thing I did was straighten out my holly harness and repaired a section that was a little bad. Just rewrapped it with that wrap tape I was talking about. Now, what we're gonna do is run this harness back in and all the wires back in. We're gonna drill a hole out right here, pretty decent hole. Maybe throw a grommet there, and all the wires are gonna run out here. That way you won't see them at all. This fuel return, hey, come back here. I'm gonna need you. Don't be going too far. This return line, I'm gonna rerun over here. So instead of like 45, 90 and off, it's just gonna go straight. It'll look clean. I got a trick I'm gonna show y'all when we get to fastening this stuff down to the firewall, because we want everything to have like straight angles and look clean. This is a ground, believe it or not. Yeah, I know it's 0 gauge and it's big, but it's how I ground my block. I also have a ground running, pretty solid ground running to the transmission as well. I ground everything like crazy. Call me crazy, but good things happen when you have solid grounds. Anyways, this here ground, we're gonna move underneath the car, so you ain't gonna see all this. So that'll help. All my brake lines were beautiful when I first bent them and ran them, but after like so many times of being in here, bending stuff out of the way and moving stuff, they just kind of look hideous. And there's an easy fix for that. You just gotta order it, and it ain't cheap. It's Finish Line Brakes makes these nice kits. They're ready to rock. So I might have to do that, but I will say, they work. These work. This is the budget alternative. This is that nickel, copper, something, but you got to flare all your fittings and run all your brake lines, and I could redo them, but man, it's a tall order. And yeah, they look horrible, but they're all working. Got into that whiskey last night.
grindstone.
It appears as if I began sanding the engine bay. One project turns into two. All right, so now probably gonna have to take the dash out, get all them wires pulled through. Hopefully I didn't run too many wires through the dash, because yeah, that'll make this 10 times harder. So far, this side, all the wiring, need to remove this too, but all the wiring is gonna be, or is gone. Now, I would tackle that other side, but I think I need to do this one side at a time. Yep, that is why. We got a lot going on. I had to snip a couple wires just to be able to get them out. Quickest route. Basically, all this is gonna have to fit right there in that center spot. Remember where I said we're gonna pop a hole through? Alright guys, so I began relocating things in here, so they'll be under the dash. Got my dual Mac valves there, my boost reference there, and my dome pressure reference there. All that'll get ran out and through the firewall, cleaning up and separating everything, so that way when I put it back together, it's not a nightmare to do. Now I need to go over and tackle the other side. And let's see what all we cleaned up in the engine bay now. So now, well, I use tape to hold bolts for me when it's just me, so that way I can get a nut on it from the other side. It's like having an extra person basically. But now, I think I'm gonna stick with running these lines out here, because it's just gonna be the dome pressure lines that you're gonna see. But all this cleared off, and all this area will be cleared right where that giant hole is that I made. It's basically right where my intake is gonna be, so you're not gonna be able to see that. I still need to move the fuel line. These are my breather lines, so fine, they'll still look nice wherever they go. And yeah, definitely clean up, and it's kind of messy, but picture starting to come together. It's like I said, you need to move things down and out of sight, and that's what we're doing. Now we need to go over there, tackle the other side, move all those grounds underneath, and I think we'll be on to something here. The end result that we're going for here is, like I said in the beginning of the video, we need to get all the wires off of those metal areas and get them low, so that way when the engine is in, you won't be able to see them. Now, for those of you with the OEM style stuff, it's going to be a lot harder, but it gets easier the more stuff you can remove or are not running, the more things you can get creative and hide underneath fenders. The fender that normally goes here, so if you ran your wires here, you wouldn't see it. If it went down this, you're still not going to see it if it's on the back side, because the fender and bumper are going to cover that. And that's realistically the goal with this. It's just, how can I pull everything out, straighten it all out, and then reroute it so that you can't see it when it's all put back together. And yeah, definitely a big undertaking. If you're going to try and do this in a weekend, I'm sure it's possible, but just keep in mind it might take you a little bit longer than a week. For example, this nitrous solenoid setup right here, the power wires are spliced right there and go in through that hole. I need to cut this somewhere, reroute it out the main hole there, loom it, and reconnect it. That's just one of the many things that I need to do. This here is a brake light switch. When this sees brake pressure, it activates this. That's ran into here. I need to go in there, cut it, run it. I might be able to get away with using that hole that's already right there. we'll see, because it would just sneak straight off in. This cable right here, it shoots over to the starter down there. Instead of cutting across the top, I'm gonna run it back in here, come out that hole, and then down. This main power cable that goes back to the battery, same thing. I'm probably gonna put a hole right there and run it right up to this. And basically, we're just getting rid of all the wiring that's in these areas. That's all we're doing. The wires that run down this, we're just gonna loom and make look nice. They're still gonna run down this, but I'm gonna have to come up with a better way for them to get from there here. And I might go underneath. I don't know, I'm not a huge fan. Looks like I already have this gap right here, so I could sneak them through that gap and then run them up to here. And that would just make it that much cleaner. It's just little things like that. Yeah. See that gap right there? So it's all in just being creative and just coming up with ways to route things and hide things and make them look nicer. And looks like I might be able to keep it all tucked underneath here. So definitely gotta sand the rest of this, clean it real good and repaint it. But again, that ain't happening today. All right, y'all. Sorry we're cutting this video short. Part 1 of this 2-part series. However, I do have good news. So next week, we should be ordering our 750 lift valve springs and maybe also a set of lifters. And if we're able to do that, that engine might go back together a lot quicker. And we might be back up and running the following week, maybe another week after that, and we'll probably be back up and running. All right, hope y'all had a great weekend. Catch you guys in the next one.